Hi, I'm Darlene.
I'm Gene.
We're the Roaming Retirees. We're a retired couple in our 60s who sold everything we owned to travel the world full time. In today's video, we're going to be visiting Santiago, Chile, and we're also going to be taking a day trip to Valparaiso, a beautiful coastal city where we'll visit a fish market, and we're also going to go see some amazing street art.
We're generally running a few weeks ahead of our videos, so if you want to know where we're currently at, just follow us along on Instagram. Now let's go check out Santiago. If you watch our previous video, we took you on a tour of our apartment in the Providencia neighborhood. And if you haven't got a chance to see that, you should check it out. It was one of our favorite stays.
And Santiago was founded in 1541 by Spanish conquistador Pedro de Valdivia. It has a population today of over 7 million residents, and it sits in the Chilean Central Valley within the Santiago Basin between the Andes Mountains and to the east and the Chilean Coastal Range to the west.
Our location was fantastic, and we had restaurants to choose from, grocery store nearby, some cute shops. Just the sidewalks were nice and wide, and it really felt like a really safe neighborhood.
Yeah, it was really clean and nice.
Yeah, and it was very comfortable.
And then our first night, we walked up to that little Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, that was
Ay Lupita.
Okay.
And it was a little Mexican restaurant that it was really charming. It had sidewalk dining.
Yeah, we just sat out and people watched and had some food, and it was a great way to end our day after travel.
Yeah, and they had somebody out on the street. Do you remember that they were playing like live music right next to, it wasn't part of our restaurant, but it was the little restaurant right next door. And so they had a guy out there playing guitar, Spanish guitar, and so it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And anyway, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on our first full day there, we went to Plaza de Armas. And the first thing we saw was this great big statue. It was an equestrian statue of Pedro Valdivia. And then there was live music, and we heard it, and so we followed it. And we came across this band. It was up on a big stage, and they were playing, and it was really kind of fun Spanish music, and the people were dancing, and it was really a lot of fun.
So they seemed to be kind of popular, and the people seemed to know who they were, even though we didn't.
I think they had a following going, and
yeah, but we really enjoyed the music.
Yeah, and then we even got a shake or two in. Well, I did. I got a shake or two in. Gene stood there and did his best to just kind of tap his foot, but anyway, but it was a lot of fun. And then where'd we go after that?
After that, we went over to the Metropolitan Cathedral, which is a huge part of the plaza.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the seat of Archdiocese and the main temple of the Catholic Church of Chile. And it's also the permanent seat of Archbishop of Santiago.
Yep.
And is dedicated to the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. Construction began in 1748, but due to various factors, including several earthquakes, it wasn't finished as is seen today until 1906.
This church was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, beautiful.
Yeah.
It was like the churches that we see in Europe.
Yeah,
and
it was.
The ceilings themselves, they were all arched, and then they had all these beautiful murals on them, and the gold, it was gilded everywhere.
Yeah,
it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
It had gilded columns, and it had like a Baroque influence.
Yeah.
And they said intricate frescoes. It's just beautiful. I mean, it was one of those churches that you had to sit back and take it in, at least I did.
Yeah, and then I think I still missed some stuff while I was in there.
Yeah.
So.
And then this is a church that it really takes up like the one whole end almost of the square of the plaza. It's about 3/4 of the way. That's the size of it. So it was huge.
Yeah, it's a very big church, and it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And we highly recommend going to visit that. And then after leaving that church, we walked over to the plaza, just taking in the sights in the neighborhood.
Yeah, we came across that big beautiful red building, which is the headquarters of the fire department.
Yeah,
right?
the Santiago Fire Department. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It stood right out. I mean, it was one of those that's bright colored. You know, the red was like that fire engine red.
Yeah. And then we left there and we went over to another church, which was Santo Domingo Church. And this church was built in 1747. And it's the fourth church that's been built on that same site because they've all been destroyed by earthquakes.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy to think.
Yeah.
Because everything we talk about, all the history of all these buildings, the ones that you say there's 3 buildings or 4 buildings, they've all been destroyed by massive earthquakes. So they must get really big earthquakes there.
Yeah, but it was declared a national monument of Chile in 1951.
Yeah, and then as we were walking over to this other area, we kind of walked behind the cathedral. And as we walked behind the cathedral, there was this big white building there. And it had a big block wrought iron fence around it. And then we went over to the building because we weren't sure what it was. And then it had a big sign across the front that said La Cámara de Diputados, which is the lower house of legislative power of Chile. And the area that we were walking to was the area of all the government offices. And so we then came to a large building that also had gates around it, another one. Mm-hmm. But this one, the gates were open and the people were walking in. And so we just kind of walked in. And then as we walked in, some guy, we were standing there looking at it and taking pictures of it. And some guy walked up to us.
And asked us where we were from.
Yeah, and he was all dressed nicely in a suit and had his little briefcase. And I was like, oh, he looks like a lawyer, you know. Yeah. Anyway, and then he just started telling us all about the building. I mean, he just told us about the building and the history of the building and what was in the building, you know, the offices. And he said normally we could go in, but on Mondays it was closed, so we couldn't go in on Monday. But he was really nice to share all the information, and he seemed to enjoy sharing it with us. Then when we asked him, what do you do? He said, I'm a lawyer. So we were like, oh.
Good, well, you have that lawyer look.
Yeah, you have a lawyer look to you. So anyway, and then also nearby is the Palacio de la Moneda, the presidential palace. And this is just a few blocks from Plaza de Armas, but it could be easily missed as it's off the beaten path. It was even kind of a couple blocks from that legislative building. Right. So anyway, and then from there, we also seen the Chilean Congress building. And that was built when?
1851 and 1861.
Yeah, so it took them like 10 years to build that.
Yeah, probably had a couple earthquakes in there.
Maybe. Anyway.
And it's currently the Chamber of Deputies and is open to the public. But check the hours and stuff. And this was also the Palacio Edwards Diplomatic Academy of Chile, built in 1899. And the area is full of Santiago's history and surrounded by government offices. And we went to the Museo Nacional de Bellas Artes. And if you enjoy museums, it is a really nice museum to visit. And it's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you just have to check your bag when you come in. So if you're carrying a backpack or something, you have to put it in a locker. And when we got there, we could not figure out how the lockers work.
No, we couldn't figure them out.
So,
and this nice guy, a young man.
Yeah, he came up and he told us how to do it, and we didn't have any change, so we actually paid for our locker.
Yeah, so very sweet. And we have found that all over South America. People have been very helpful, very kind. Yeah, that is just something that it's kind of touched us that people are so helpful and kind around South America. So
yeah, but you'd want to check it. It's open from what, Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 6:30.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful museum. It's it had 2 or 3 floors, and it had a lot of art and sculptures and.
Yeah, there was a lot to see in there.
Yeah, and so it was nice. It was free, and if you like museums, this is definitely one you want to go to.
Yeah, and especially a free one. Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, we like free. We always like free. So anyway, Our second full day, we went to Cerro San Cristobal Funicular de Santiago. That opened in 1925. It's been operating now for over 100 years. It's part of the Santiago Metropolitan Park. That's the 4th largest urban park in the world.
Yeah, we didn't know that until we started looking up the history and doing that. But
it was huge. I mean, we actually said, man, this park is really big and nice, but we didn't realize how big it really was.
Yeah.
And the station is a National Historic Monument due to its engineering and cultural importance. It takes you on a 500-meter steep journey, and we're talking like this, and that's not an exaggeration,
that was steep.
to the summit of San Cristobal. And at the top, you'll visit the Mirador de Bella Vista, the sanctuary of the Virgin Immaculate Conception. It's a beautiful shrine and statue of the Virgin Mary that looks down upon the city. And there is a small chapel called the Motherhood of Mary that sits to the right of Cerro San Cristobal. And up there, you'll also enjoy the spectacular panoramic views of Santiago and the Andes Mountains. There's also an amphitheater right there and some beautiful gardens with more statues. On the grounds, there's a zoo, a Japanese garden, a kids area, 2 pools, and a recreational area in this park. It's a wonderful place to spend the day, and I think that it would be a fantastic place for families.
Yeah, we spent the whole day there. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of little cafes up there too.
Yeah, there's restaurants and cafes.
Yeah.
And then we'd also suggest getting the combo ticket of the funicular and the cable car. That's what we did. So we could take the funicular up, then we hiked all around there. We hiked up to the statue. We came back down. We went over to the rope. We call it a ropeway, but they call it the cable car. So we got onto the cable car. We rode the cable car to the kids area. And then we got off there and realized we were in the kids area because we weren't really sure where we were going. But we could have stopped and got off at the Japanese garden and taken that hike to the Japanese garden, and we missed that stop. So anyway, and then we took the ride back, and then at the base of the cable car, there was a beautiful viewing area. I mean, it was spectacular. You saw the whole city, and then you also saw Gran Torre, Santiago's skyscraper, which stands at 984 feet. And it sits kind of by itself, so it really stands out.
And it's very impressive.
It's very impressive. It's a beautiful building architecturally.
Yeah.
It's really pretty. Anyway, so we would recommend doing both, you know.
Absolutely.
And then the funicular, that's open from Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. and Mondays from 1 to 6:45. But then on the first Monday of the month, it's closed because they do scheduled maintenance on the first Monday of every month. So just keep that in mind, that if you're on the first Monday, it will not be open at all.
And then the next day, we took a tour that we booked through TripAdvisor, and we went out to Valparaiso. And that's a fantastic seaside city founded in 1536. And this city is a feast for the senses. We'll put a link below to the tour we took, and it was excellent. And it started with a drive through the mountains and the countryside of the Casablanca Valley. And our first stop was at Rio Tinto Casablanca Winery.
Yeah.
And we took about 30-minute break there.
Yeah, we could have used longer.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
I mean, it's a place where you can stop and you can get food, or you can get coffee or whatever.
Do wine tasting.
Do some wine tasting there.
Yeah.
Do that. And then
We I think our tour kind of used it as a restroom stop, and then if you wanted to get a bite to eat or something, you could do that.
yeah. So from there, we were back on the bus, and then we headed out to
Vina del Mar.
Vina del Mar,
Yeah.
That's a big flower clock, and that's located on the slope of Cerro Castillo. And it's one of the most visited sites in all of Vina del Mar.
Yeah. And that clock, I guess it has a history itself because it was destroyed, I guess, in a couple storms, and they had to rebuild it. So there's a lot of history behind that big clock too. And then we went on to Palacio Carrasco. That was built between 1912 and 1923. It was the home of businessman Emilio Carrasco, and today it serves as a museum, a library, and historical archive. It was severely damaged in several different earthquakes, and over the years, the earthquakes, it continued to be damaged and repairs weren't done. And then in 2010, it had a massive earthquake, and in that earthquake, they decided to shut it down and do a full restoration. And so even though they kind of started the whole process after 2010, I mean, it's 2026 and they're still working on it. When we were there was scaffolding on the outside and people were out there working.
Yeah.
And so it's closed to the public right now, but hopefully it'll be open pretty soon because they've been working on it a long time. So check that, you know. And then next to that, there's sat an authentic Moai statue that came from the Easter Islands. And there's only a few statues in the world that are not on the Easter Islands. So Jean and I felt really lucky that we got to see this authentic, you know, Moai statue. It's a monolithic that was transported from the Easter Islands. This one's called Moai del Ahu, and it was carved between 1250 and 1500 CE. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I think both of us really were like, oh, this is really cool that they have this here. Because we didn't know we were going to get to see that.
No,
So it was
yeah,
a surprise.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And then we got on the bus and we headed over to see Vina del Mar Castillo Wolf. It was built in 1906 and is a National Historic Monument that's built on the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean. And then further down the coast, we visited Caletas Portales, and that's a famous fish market and a fishing port. And when we pulled in on the bus right there was some giant pelicans.
And they stunk.
Yeah, they really did stink. I'll give them that. Pelicans don't smell very well.
No, we've been all over and smelt a lot of wild things, and that was probably the smelliest we've
Yeah,
ever smelled.
they stink. And there was a bunch of them, though.
Yeah, there was a couple hundred, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then
well, I expected them to fly away, but they didn't. They just sat there. And
yeah, we walked all along. We were within feet of them, and they just
Yeah.
sat there.
And then from there, you could also see the sea lions and everything.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Lots of seagulls.
Yeah. And with
So-
it being a fish market, you get all the birds and all that stuff in
Hanging
there.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we walked in and we went in to see
The boats were there.
Yeah, where all the fishermen have their boats in. We were there on a Monday, and I guess Mondays there are kind of slow, I guess, or not as busy, I guess is how to put it. And so all of them were in and they're working on their nets and
Yeah.
doing that. And,
They're doing boat repairs and whatever,
yeah.
you know, getting ready for the next fishing day.
Yeah.
And so we walked through all the boats. It was kind of weird because we're just tromping through and stepping over nets, and you know, it was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
anyway, and then we walked through all the boats, and then we got over to where the actual fish store part was, the market.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went into the fish market, and that was really kind of neat. It wasn't even that stinky,
No.
and it was
Smelled
just
better than the pelicans.
oh yeah, a lot better than the pelicans. And it was just like this beautiful display of multiple kinds of seafood, fish and clams and shellfish and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we kind of walked through there. Jean and I, we don't eat a lot of seafood, but we were like really impressed with the variety and the assortment of all this fresh seafood and how pretty it looked. You know,
Yeah.
it was displayed very
Yeah,
nicely.
Yeah, they did a good job of displaying.
Yeah. And then we left the fish market, and then we drove over by the Justice Square and the Court of Appeals, and on our way to the El Perro Funicular. And that was, I think that one of the oldest funiculars. It's been in operation since 1902. And this funicular, it takes you up to the Valparaiso Fine Arts Museum, and it allows visitors to see the propulsion machinery. They have big glass windows right there that you can walk on that looks down into the floor and sees all the gears and everything moving, right?
Yeah.
And then that was a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and I think it became a National Monument of Chile. So then, when we arrived at the top, we enjoyed a spectacular view of the bay and all the colorful architecture. And then we also wandered through all these little narrow streets and alleyways of the Cerro Alegre and Cerro Concepcion. And there was just so much street art there. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they really do a good job.
It was so tastefully done. I mean, I think there was art there that it was kind of a landscape type art, and then there, like right next to it, would be somebody had drawn a cartoon, or they had people, you know. That,
they do a whole portrait of somebody.
It was and animals.
Yeah, they'd have some animals. There were some aliens, because apparently they're kind of into aliens back there. So there was a few aliens along the way too.
I mean, but it was really all nicely done, and it was beautiful. And I mean, I'd never seen so much. I'd never seen a place with so much street art and stuff.
Yeah,
and even the staircases.
Yeah, I would have to call it art, not.
Yeah, well, they call it street art,
not just graffiti. Like
no, it's not graffiti.
They really do a good job.
And then the stairs, all the stairs had art on the stairs, and as we went up the stairs, it created a portrait kind of going up the stairs. My favorite was the piano. They had piano keys, and you know, each one was done correct to the piano.
Yeah.
And so it was just really cool looking. And I really enjoyed that. I mean, that
walking
was kind
around the street, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of hill climbing though, so be prepared for that if you go there. There's a lot of hills and a lot of stairs. So anyway, and then after that, we went and got some lunch. And we stopped at this cute little restaurant called Inquilino, where we sat on a large deck that overlooked the water. And it was really good food, and the atmosphere was nice. And
and then we met up with that guy that was in our tour group, and I think he was from...
He was a solo traveler.
Yeah, I don't know if he was from Chicago.
He was from one of the big cities.
He was up in the Northeast in one of the big cities up there.
Yeah.
But we shared lunch with him, and he bought a bottle of wine, and we had that with lunch.
And we just sat and visited, you know, for like the hour that we were there. Mm-hmm. And we just had a really good visit with him, and he really was fascinated about our lifestyle. He sounded like this is something that he would consider someday. I mean, he was younger than us, so he wasn't there yet. And then he asked us what we did for a living, and then we told him what we did, that Jean drove truck and I was a retired flight attendant. And boy, he got interested in the flight attendant job. He wants to be a flight attendant, I think. So
because he really likes to travel, and so you know,
I think that was right up his alley.
Kind of told him, well, you get some flying benefits if you're a flight attendant.
Boy, he was all over that. But anyway, nice guy. Really enjoyed our lunch with him.
And after lunch, we continued our walking through to Cerro Alegre, and then we returned to our bus, and our next stop was Casas del Bosque Winery, where we enjoyed wine tasting, relaxing time in the beautiful grounds, and it was a great way to end our day.
Yeah, because we did a lot of walking.
Yeah.
I think we did 8 miles that day, and most of it was uphill and stairs.
Yeah, I think it said we climbed 23 flights of stairs that day or something.
So, so we were like exhausted, and then so we ended at that winery. It was perfect. It was really beautiful. There was this one area of the winery, and we kind of had some free time, so we wandered over, and they had like this viewing deck. And him and I went up on the viewing deck, and we're out looking at the winery, and not one person was there. So we're taking pictures, and we're just enjoying the views and all this. And all of a sudden, I look and I see a group of people spot us, and here they come. You know, a large group of people, like, what are they doing over there?
It's like, hey, what are they looking at?
Yeah, so here they come, and then that was the end of our quiet time. But that's okay. We enjoyed it, and then we left there, and we went back and we found this courtyard that we sat in, and we just enjoyed that quiet time there at the courtyard.
Yeah.
And it was kind of nice to end the day because we were tired.
Yeah, we did our wine tasting, and
yep, it was great.
We did that.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. Anyway, we only had a week in Santiago too, and that was kind of a bummer because I think there was so much to see and do there, and we only scratched the surface of what there was to see.
Yeah, and I think even when we were driving to the airport, I saw things that I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, me too.
And we just didn't have time.
So we have put Santiago as our we're going to return to list.
Yeah.
That's a someday return to because we really liked it and we felt like we just didn't get to see enough. A week just wasn't enough time for us.
Yeah.
So anyway, where are we going next?
Our next stop will be in Seoul, South Korea, and actually touring all the way through South Korea. And we got about, 5 or 6 stops there.
Yep, we did 5 weeks in Seoul, and we're going to be sharing that with you, and we're excited.
Yep.
So
if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in Seoul.
All right, ciao.
Ciao.